All right, so for this video, we are going to be doing the most basic of texture placements, like literally the simplest thing we can possibly do, which is to put a picture on a plane. So imagine that you want to import photos into a picture frame on a desk or fine art onto the walls, whatever it is. This is just the barest, simplest version of how these things work. Now, these images I have here, they're meant to be kind of like fine art on the wall. If you're worried about like frames or something like that, there'll be another at the end of the video. I will cover how to like, fake that and not have to UV map anything. But you'll remember we did the frame. There's a lot of things to unwrap. This is much simpler. And it's a little bit of a cheat because we're, doing distance learning, and I know people just want to be able to apply simple textures. So here's how this works. First up, I'm going to, I lied, nope. First up, I'm going to make sure my project is set properly. So we go to File, Project window, and I check that it's set to the project I want it to be. This is Final Project. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go watch the video that's above this one that says Projects. No, really watch it. It is absolutely critical that you have a project set when you're working on imported textures. Okay, now, if for some reason it wasn't set to the right thing, you would go File, Set Project, and then you would find that folder and you would click it. So I'm going to create a plane, which as always is with the wrong settings, but that's okay. So it's just a simple plane. I'm going to go, this is my attribute editor. So that's this thing, right here, except I have the UV editing window open so we can just kind of see how things are looking. So I'm going to set, this is the polyplane one, which is like the initial draw options for a polygon. And I'm going to set this to 1 to 1. And you can see in both the UVs and the edges, pretty much everything disappeared. It's just a square. I'm not kidding. We're going for simplest ever. If for some reason you want to have, maybe if you're having like draw issues or something like that, like things are rendering a little bit screwy or your shadows are really bad, you can put more resolution in here. You just have to be a little bit more careful, but we're going for simplest ever, so we're going to do this. I'm going to rotate this a little bit, go to P-plane 1, because that's what we're calling it. That's what Maya called it. I like positive numbers, so we're going to rotate this 90 degrees that way. Oh, just kidding. We're rotating it negative 90 degrees because it's on that side. Every time I start this, I seem to have a different side of this is the correct side. So next up, we need this to be the same shape as the image. If we try to bring the image in right now, either some of it's going to get cropped or it's going to get squashed. It's going to get squashed because the image is taller than it is wide. So we need to make this the same ratio as that image. So as tall to wide as the image is. If you want to know how to do that, watch the other video above this one that says how to use Photoshop to find the aspect ratio. I did that earlier, and I happen to know that for every 11.2 units that this thing is wide, it should be, I lied. Oh, yeah, no, it should be 7. This whole thing is rotated. Oy, oy, oy. Like I said, every time I start this, it goes screwy. Oh, because my camera's in the wrong spot. I was rotated this way. At any rate. And I can check to see how it's rotated. And I can set this to 90, and this to 0, and this to 0. There we go. So your rotations shouldn't ever say like negative 180, negative 180. That doesn't make any sense. And now that I'm looking at my little compass down here, now I'm in the correct direction. So by setting this to 11.2 by 17, I have told it the relative size that it wants to be. But if it's too big or too small, you can always, resize it. Scaling it changes these numbers. Doesn't change these numbers. All right, as long as when you're scaling it, you go for the whole thing and not like this. Don't do that. And don't go into component mode and start changing these things around, right? That's not good either. As long as you keep it in object mode and you scale the whole thing proportionally, you're going to be fine. And so now we bring the image in because we've made this the same size as the image. So I go to File, New Thing. I'm bringing in something that I kind of want to be matte. You can make it shiny. It just depends on what you want the image to look like. Whenever we're attaching images, we go to the checker box for color. And I say File. And then I click the folder on that new node. And it's going to my source images folder because I set my project. And I pick the image. This is the only image that's going to fit on here. If I want to have a different image, I need to make a different image or make this a different size. I hit 6 and it shows up. And I have this open so you can see what I mean by this is kind of a cheat. You can see that the image is being brought in kind of stretched, and then it's squashing back into place because the UVs are also stretched. We didn't do any UV mapping at all on this because if we did, you would have to do some things, some other things to the file. If we were to do any kind of UV projection mapping, the image that gets brought in is always a square. So you would either have to take this photograph, bring it into Photoshop, and like add to the side so it was square, or something. So we're trying to make this as little work as possible. But if you end up with any kind of distortions or anything looking a little funny in terms of render quality, this is why. So in another video, we will go over how to make things not like that. But there you have it. So very, very simple, very painfully simple way to do this. Now, we could sit there and render this. I'm going to open another file real quick because I know that some of you aren't going to just want like a flat image up on the wall, right? Which you shouldn't want that because that's not what we're doing here. So I've got here, I haven't made it the right size yet, but oh, and it's already been UV mapped. I can delete those. Let me turn this off for a second. This is our frame from before. I turned it around, but I also, hello? There it is. I separated out the picture part from the frame part. So there's actually like a bit of a hole there. And then this picture slides in that way and I put it in the right spot. There it is. So these are two different objects, which means I can apply one material to the frame, which I actually should have made this a blend. Actually, just kidding. I want it to be a dark gray. Saturation, nothing. There it is. Look at that. So I can set the frame to one type of thing, and then I can put the image on this one. So you can have, and theoretically, as long as you place things properly, like I'm totally not doing right now. There we go. You should still be able to have your cake and eat it too. Have your picture and also very simply textured, but also have a frame. And in reality, you wouldn't be necessarily needing to keep everything as the same object anyways. All right, so I'm going to see about, let's see, I'm going to bring in an image here. So I've got this right here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to assign new materials because we never use Lambert 1. No, 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 don't do that. File. I'm going to bring in the other one because it's closer to what I have here. And is it on the other side? Oh, of course it's not. Oh, because I deleted UVs. Let me see. Well, that's half right. The problem is there was the wrong UVs to begin with. So then when I put them in, it did this. So it's not taking in the whole image. But what I can do is stretch this out. like this. So the UVs talk to this image over here, and they map this image to this. And you can see it's upside down. That's okay. We can just rotate it 90 degrees. Or 180, excuse me. There it is. And I can see, whenever I can see that edge right there, even if I click off and can't see it, I should work to correct that. And I should work to correct that because it might have problems when you render later. You shouldn't be seeing the edge of it like that anywhere, unless you're like way in there. The other thing I can do is maybe bring it out just a little bit. All right, so now we've got a picture in the frame. Now, I did not scale this particular image or picture to be the same as the image. So if we look at it compared to the image, it's not the same. It's a little bit squashed. So I think I have these. I do have them grouped together. Go me. I could kind of do this a little bit. Now, I shouldn't do that because my frame will get distorted. So if I really want the image to be the correct aspect ratio and I don't want to change the size of the frame, I then have to crop the image. So I come in here and I go to UVs, I drag select all my UVs, and then I do this until the image here looks less squashed. Yes, I am cropping some of the image, but that's going to have to be your choice. As you're working with these, you're going to have some things that might be a little bit distorted or some things that might be a little bit squashed because, again, we're not doing this the absolute 100% proper way. This is a little bit of a cheat. All right, UVs are how you map things on here. And they exist to start off with just filling up the whole square when you have flat planes like this. And then they tell the image how to map onto the polygon mesh that is over here. And you can see that this has this in here. And so you can see the two edges that are in here. So I just have more things I have to select, right? If I was to select just these two edges, see how that side gets squished and the other side doesn't? So that's why I said, keeping it absolutely as simple as possible, having only the exact one face may make things a little bit easier for you. All right, so depending on how you set this up, you may not even have to open this UV editing thing. You may just have to, apply a new texture. But let me go into object mode and click off of it. There we go. You can see I have a nice simple frame, nice slightly shiny frame, shiny gray frame around a nice picture. All right, and that can kind of give us a little bit of something to work with. Now I'm looking at the photo. Oh no, that's definitely watercolor. Never mind. There are ways to add bump maps to things. I'm gonna show that in another. You know what? I'm gonna show it in another video. I'm gonna find a better picture that has oil painting on it that would have texture to it, and show you how to do that. But this is a watercolor, so it'd be pretty flat. I totally lied. I'm gonna show you texture. Make the video a little bit longer. I'm gonna put a bump map on this. So I go to, I didn't label this. Shame on me. So we have a bump map video that already exists, but it was kind of non-specific. So I'm gonna go over more maybe specific ways we can do this. Oh, jeez, I'm breaking everything. So I click on bump map and it asks me to add stuff. And you can add a photo as a bump map with the file here, same as before. But I want to add something else. I want to add some kind of texture that makes this look like it's a very sort of bumpily paper, you know. So I'm going to click fractal. Okay, not that bumpy. Don't worry. We're going to fix that. So this right here, this bump depth, changes the amount of bump. But I'm actually going to leave it stupid high for now because I want to see the pattern really easily. The pattern is defined by this, which you can see there's a little thing here. And there's all these settings for this fractal. So I can, hello? There we go. That also changes the amount. Let's see. Oh, no, not threshold. Ooh, I like when there's lots of it. Frequency is going to change. You can see it getting smaller and smaller, but the reality is it actually just kind of like cycles through the pattern a little bit. Ooh. I think I kind of like that. And then if I want to get back to where I was, unfortunately, I kind of have to click on this and then click on bump again. And it does not bring me to where I need to go. Oh, wait. There it is. These two buttons cycle you through all of the things that are, all the nodes that are connected. So eventually I get to bump map and I can turn it down, like way down. Don't go, well, if you go to negative numbers, it goes in the opposite direction. So when I say way down, I mean like 0.06. Well, actually, that's not bad. Oh, still too much. Bump this 0.01. Too little. If I want to know what nothing looks like, by the way, I can hit 0. Oh, actually, that was kind of, there we go, 0.02. Tiny amount. But you can see, if we get real close, it doesn't look like anything helpful. But we're not looking to go real close. We're looking to look at it from here. And from here, it gives it a little bit of warmth. It gives it a little bit of something that you maybe can't even see on YouTube. I'll be honest. Can you even see this on YouTube? I turned it up a little bit more. But it kind of gives it a little bit of something. And if I bring this down to 0, it's gone. It's just a flat image. But if I put it to 0.03, get that little bit of texture. If we're at an extreme angle, we can really see it. That looks like watercolor paper to me. All right, and so the way I got that is same as attaching an image. I went to bump mapping, I clicked this checker box for that. I selected fractal in this case, which brought me here. You click this button, brings you to the fractal settings, and the only thing I changed was the frequency ratio, and I might have turned the ratio all the way up. I turned everything all the way up and I made the frequency, and then this section here, the bump depth, I turned it to a very tiny number, not a negative number, but a very tiny number approaching 0. And that gave us this look. So I'm trying to include like a specific example of texture bump stuff. Oh, that's too much. We're going to do 0.02. Specific examples in each video because the video we had was very non-committal. And so I want to show you like kind of the different ways you can do that. And you can do the same thing for this one. It'll be a little bit trickier because there's tiny and large areas. And I also like that being shiny. This being shiny and like the sheen and the sleekness of it in contrast with the roughness of this image, I really like that. I like that contrast. So I would probably not put a bump map on this. Not every frame has to be made of wood with nuts in it. So keep that in mind as you are texturing things.